I'm so happy to be here, and I'm glad that you are here as well. I'm going to be sharing my wellness journey from mostly from the last 5 years. So I graduated college in 2019 and have been a runner for as long as I can remember. So let's start from the beginning. My dad was a runner in high school, college, and beyond that. And so I grew up with running in my life. And I also had some amazing mentors, role models in my life from our church. Our pastor's daughters were really talented runners that I looked up to and got to watch them compete and do what they loved. And it was just something that I knew that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. So when I was a very little girl, young enough to sit in a running stroller, my dad was training for different road races. So I'm not sure, 10Ks, half marathon. And he would take me with him. I would be sitting in the running stroller, and throughout the runs, I would do this chant. And I think he taught it to me to keep him motivated. But my chant was DADDY, Daddy is my favorite guy. Go, Daddy. And I think I remember some of these moments of being on runs and the house that I grew up in, there was a bike path kind of nearby. And I can picture us running, me riding on that bike path. And those memories still just stick with me. And my dad, my parents have both been my greatest supporters in life and running and everything. And so I'm very grateful for them and their love and support. So when I got to the age of being in elementary school, we had to run the mile run as part of gym class. Every student had to do the mile run. And I'm not sure if that's still a thing anymore, but the first year that I did this, I was in kindergarten, and I I don't know if I didn't know that we were running the mile or what happened, but I went to school that day and was wearing a dress. And I remember I got home from school and was like, "Mom, are my cheeks still red?" And she looked at me confused, and I was like, "Well, I ran the mile run today in my dress," and I was just so proud of myself. I was the fastest girl. I think I got second in my class, and so from there we just kind of knew that I running was kind of in my blood and in my DNA, and it was something I loved. And so throughout elementary school, we still had the mile run days, and towards the end of elementary school, fourth, fifth grade, um, my dad and I would go for some shorter runs, probably maybe a mile max, but maybe a half mile, to prepare for the mile run day, because it was a day that I really looked forward to. Me and some of my friends were very competitive, and they would post the top 10 to 15 girls and boys' times. And so you could see who was the fastest in the school in that grade, and kind of compare yourself, which I don't know if that was very healthy, but it really pushed us to do our best. And I think each year I was at least in the top three, and a couple times was the top runner. And does that matter? No, but it was always fun and brought competition into my life at a very young age. And so once it got time to decide in sixth grade or seventh grade, maybe, what sports we were going to do, it was never a question. I was going to be a runner. I was so excited to be able to run cross country and track. And my cousin was a runner. And so I watched her. I watched the people from church that I looked up to. And so when it became time for cross country to start in seventh grade, I was so excited, and I knew exactly what it was all about. And so during the summers, I would train, work hard, um, do, I think in seventh and eighth grade, there wasn't really like captain's practice. But you'd had to kind of run on your own until the season started. And I was always a very hard worker, and things didn't necessarily come easy to me. I had to work for them, and I was a very patient, and still am a very patient person, and know that my determination and dedication is going to pay off in the long run. And so I would put in the miles, do some workouts, do all the things during the summer in high school. Um, and it would eventually pay off throughout the season. The first races, um, I would have kind of an edge on some of the other girls because maybe they didn't do as hard of work in the summer. But then they would kind of catch up during the season, and all of that would just compound. And so in college, or leading up into college, I always wanted to continue my running journey. And so that played a big role in which college I was going to attend, because I wanted to keep running. And so I went to a Division III college in my hometown, Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota. And I ran for all 4 years and was super grateful for all the relationships that I got to build on the team. I'm still great friends with so many of the girls, and a few of them were in my wedding that recently happened. And so just so many benefits to being part of a team culture, and especially a team that really prioritized you as a student athlete. So student came first. We all worked very hard in the classroom, but also loved to work hard and put in the good effort on during practice, and push ourselves during meets. And I had wonderful coaches that I'm super grateful for, all the way through from middle school, high school, and college. So many great coaches that I still look up to, and I'm happy that they are part of my life and were part of my journey. So I have been a runner. I ran competitively for 10 years, middle school through college, and then wanted to continue that after college. And so I graduated in 2019. And after being a student athlete on a team for 10 years, and that's part of your life, you have that motivation from other people around you. It can be really different after you graduate. Everyone goes their own ways, moves to different places, gets jobs. You're kind of on your own again, and you have to kind of navigate what that looks like to continue to be an athlete or continue to have movement that you like in your life. So after graduation, I probably took like a week off, and then was like, I'm going to sign up for a half marathon that fall, keep training hard. I had good momentum coming from my last season of track, and I ran a really fast half marathon that fall. Fast for what I think. I think I ran like 1 hour, 32 minutes. And I was very proud of myself. I think I got 5th place for women. It was a smaller race in our community, but I was feeling good. But at the same time, I had started to develop some disordered eating habits from just comparing myself to other people that maybe I saw on social media, just other professional runners. I felt like I needed to change my body composition. I've always been a fit, slim woman, but I have my dad's genes and have larger leg muscles. And so that's something that I've always been a little self-conscious about, but it didn't really bother me much in high school and college because I could still perform well. But after college, I started to think, what if they were smaller? What if I could be able to change that and I'd be a better runner? So that was kind of the start of some negative behaviors that came into my life. And I just being running by yourself, I started to see the scale was changing. I started to really, everything needed to be healthified, if that's a word. All food that I would make, any food that I was going to consume, I was reading labels. I was adding vegetables to everything, which I still kind of do that, but like making weird substitutions, using low fat options, cutting out carbs, or not really eating a lot of carbs. I wasn't eating beef and pork. It was a time that was difficult. And I lived at home at the time. And so it was probably difficult on my parents as well. Um, I also went through a phase of using MyFitnessPal and tracking literally everything that I was consuming. And that app, it can compare, like, it can be very powerful. It can be helpful if you don't take it to an unhealthy in an unhealthy manner. So you can set it up to kind of make sure that you're getting enough protein, enough carbs, enough fat, but then it also you can be obsessive about it, and it can be controlling and all consuming. I don't know how much time I would spend logging my food and logging literally every calorie that I was consuming. And then it would compare it to the number of calories that I was burning through my exercise. And it started to get to a point where if I was consuming more calories than what I was burning, then I had to go for like another walk, another run, another bike ride, do some abs in the floor, like do some core workouts. Oh, it kind of pains me to think about that time in my life. I wanted everything to kind of balance out and try to burn more calories than what I was taking in. I was viewing food as something that was a reward and something that I needed to earn, which is very different than the point in my life that I am today. Um, Literally all I thought about was food. What was I going to have for my next meal? What was I going to make for a snack? Would it be healthy enough, or did I work out enough to eat that meal? Oh, it pains me. So that time all kind of was leading up to COVID times and was kind of during COVID times, 2020. I was training, I signed up for a marathon in our local community, the Fargo Marathon, that is usually held in May of each year. And so I was signed up for the May 2020 marathon. Right after I had ran my half marathon in October 2019. So I was still training hard, hadn't really had any breaks since high school, or before high school. And then we all know what happened. Races were canceled, or postponed. People didn't really know, like, would the world return back to normal in a couple months, or was it going to be longer? And we all know how that ended up. And so my May 2020 race was postponed to, I think, August. But then once it got to be that point, it ended up going virtual. And you had the option, you could run it virtual, like basically do it by yourself, or you could take the refund. I think I got refunded. And so I did not want my first full marathon to be a virtual race. Like, that is not an experience that I wanted to have. And so I was gearing up for this marathon probably the end of 2019 through the summer, and then it just it didn't happen. And so that was pretty deflating. And then I probably took a little bit of time off or kind of backed off my training. And me and my friend committed to running the Twin Cities Marathon the next year. So in 2021, things got better, vaccines came out, the world started opening up. And so we were signed up for the race, Twin Cities Marathon, October 2021. And so, but by the time that race came, it felt like I had been training for a marathon for like 2 years. Like it was a long time. So, Twin Cities Marathon, I I did a lot of things looking back that I would definitely change. So, my disordered eating habits had kind of still continued. I was still kind of afraid of fat and carbs and different food groups. And so my body just had some work I needed to do mentally and physically. But I didn't take care of those things until after my first marathon. And I knew I needed to before that, but I just wanted to get through the marathon. And so let's see. In April of 2021, I kind of started a new health journey, a new wellness journey. And I was introduced to a new company and some new products, which I'll get to that part later in my story. But I also realized and had done a lot of research about hormonal birth control. And so that was a big part, like that was in my life for about 10 years. So almost the whole time that I was a competitive runner, I was taking hormonal birth control. And I decided in April of 2021, so several months before the marathon, that I was just gonna stop that. And I went off and I didn't know, like, I didn't get my period back. And they later learned after like a couple months had gone by, I kept doing some research trying to figure out like what is wrong with my body, what's going on here, and trying to figure out how I was going to fix this because I knew that it was not good that I was not having my menstrual cycle. Like that can lead to bone density issues, that can lead to stress fractures because your bones maybe are weaker. And I was still running at such a high level and training a lot. And so it was a journey. And I realized and learned through some of my research that when you're on the pill, it's actually it can mask your missing period. If your body isn't getting enough fuel, enough nutrients to do like its processes of literally preparing your body to carry a future child, if you're not giving yourself enough calories and enough nutrients, your period can go missing. And sometimes this is normalized among female runners. And oh, that's mind-blowing to me. And makes me so sad. So then when this happened to me, that I didn't have my period, even though like the months before that, when I was on the pill, I would get a normal bleed. What I thought was a normal bleed, I should say. So after like 3 months probably of trying to figure this out on my own, I realized maybe I should call my family doctor and kind of figure out maybe they have some solution. Like I trusted this doctor. She had been my doctor since I was born. Talked to them, and their recommendation was you should take a pregnancy test. And if you're not pregnant, you should go back on the pill so that you get your period back. And I wasn't happy with that advice because of all the stuff that I had learned. But I don't know. I think they were just doing the best they could with the information that they have available, which is maybe a little outdated of information. Like The pill is not a real bleed. And if you still believe that, I'd love to chat with you more about that. Um, yeah, that's what I'll say about that. But I took a pregnancy test. I knew it was gonna be negative, but and it was. I obviously have not had a child in the last couple of years. Um, and yeah, I was just disappointed that that was what the recommendation was. And I realized I needed to figure out how to get my period back. It had been several months now. And it was like right before my marathon that I had reached out to someone I found on Instagram who kept sharing about her group coaching program that literally helps women get their missing period back. And I was like, this was made for me. Like, that is exactly what I need. And she was a dietitian in her previous profession. And so she had tons of knowledge and experience with like how much food do we really need to be taking in, especially during that recovery journey. And trying to learn how to kind of rewire our brains about food and our loving our bodies again and loving them for the things that they can do for us. And being willing and able to literally take time off and rest and not run or do any like strenuous activities. So that was the program that I joined. And I joined it like probably a couple weeks before my marathon. And I could not go all in on her program until after my marathon because I wasn't just gonna stop running. I had this goal, I had this race coming up, and I wanted to do it. And so even though I was missing my period for since April or before that, because who knows how long it was actually missing, I I ran the marathon. And oh, that gets me to some of the lessons that I learned, some of the things I would do way differently and that I did do way differently in my recent marathon. I'm not going to necessarily call them mistakes because it's all that I knew, or I was just kind of ignorant for my first marathon. My goal was to qualify for the Boston Marathon, which is still my goal. And I wanted to run a 3 hour, 25-minute marathon. Some of the things that I did that weren't the best decisions for me was that I pushed my easy runs too fast during my training. I didn't take them easy. I also didn't really follow a training plan or consistently do any speed workouts. I think I also was battling like a hamstring pain. And so when I would run faster, it would flare that up. And so I just put in the miles mostly and ran long runs fast, easy runs fast. All the things were kind of the same pace. I also ran by myself pretty much every day, unless my mom or dad biked with me, which was on occasion, and I'm very grateful for that. Also, I had no fueling strategy. I did not use any fuel during my training runs. I don't even remember. I think I got into using dates, which were probably only on my longest runs, but I never used any goos or any energy gels. Didn't really bring water with unless my mom or dad was biking with me. Sometimes they had a bottle with them. I had no sodium or electrolyte or any kind of strategy for keeping salt in my body, even though I am a very salty sweater. And so that was not the best decision. I didn't really fuel my body well before or after any of my training runs. Like I think I'd eat a quick breakfast, maybe sometimes. A lot of times I think I just ran fasted. Like I'd get up and run, no breakfast, and then eat something after that. I also was not prioritizing my carbs before the race. I did not carb load. I was probably actually still cutting back on carbs because I was kind of afraid of them. Um, I started the Twin Cities Marathon. I felt pretty good. I started at my goal race pace, 7:45, maybe even a little faster. I don't know. You have all those endorphins flowing, the adrenaline is pumping, everyone is excited, there's so much energy, everybody's around you. And I was feeling good for the first half marathon. After that, I slowly was like losing the people that I was with, my body started to slow down, and it got much harder to sustain even like an 8-minute mile. I think I was going slower than that. Um, Miles like 16 through 20, 22 we're also kind of quiet, so I think there's not as much fans cheering for you. My family hadn't seen me in a while. um it was just a harder spot in the course for people to get to, and so that's where I started to fall apart. And when I got to mile 22, I really hit the wall, and hit the wall hard. If you've done long distance running and races, you know what the wall is. And if you've run a marathon, you probably also really know what the wall is. And yeah, I had to stop and crawl, basically. I was not on my hands and knees, but I was walking extremely slow. My legs were tightening. I could see them tightening. I pulled myself over to the side to try. I couldn't get one of my little energy goo, or not goos, because I wasn't using those, an energy chew that was in my pouch. I couldn't get that out. My fingers weren't working right. My body was out of salt, I'm pretty sure, because that's why my legs were so tight, so tight. That next mile of walking, it took me about 30 minutes or more. So if you can imagine, that's a long time. Then I finally got to like the next Gatorade stop, got some electrolytes, got some sodium, started to feel a little better, probably picked up the pace of my walking a little bit more. But at that time I still had like 3 miles left, and my Boston qualifying dreams were out the window. I just needed to get myself to the finish line at that point. I apparently looked over at my parents, who at that point were walking their bikes for the rest of the race duration. They were gonna get back in their car and drive to the finish and be able to get there in time to see me finishing strong. But then they got word that I was walking and not doing the best, and so they were walking with me. Probably had to hold themselves back a little bit because of how slow I was going. But we made it. I made it to mile 25. I got myself to actually run a little bit. Before that, when I was walking really slow, I apparently looked at my mom and said, "Am I running?" as I was moving my arms very fast, but barely putting one foot in front of the other. So that was a crazy experience that I had for my first marathon. I was so grateful to cross the finish line, because at mile 22, I honestly didn't think that that was maybe going to be possible, but we got there. So many things that I I did so wrong, or just not the best option for that marathon. Um, but I think part of what helped me actually be able to get to the finish line and um, get get me there, uh, get me through my training, even though I was not necessarily fueling myself properly, was in April 2021, when I went off birth control. I also was introduced to a more natural way of living and some new products that I had never heard of that have truly elevated my life in so many ways and in all areas of my life now. I was introduced to Shackley products, and they're incredible, beyond organic, clinically proven solutions for nutrition supplements, our green cleaners, and also like natural beauty products. So amazing. And I'm so glad that they came into my life when they did, because honestly, I don't know how I would have gotten through that marathon. I don't know if I'd still be battling my disordered eating habits. That kind of was the Kickstarter to a new way of living and looking at health and wellness. And so I have always been motivated to live a healthy lifestyle, to do activities, attend trainings, um, listen to podcasts, read professional development books, and now being able to use products that will continue to elevate my life and help me thrive has been a game changer. So when I first was introduced, I was in the midst of training for my first marathon. And I was introduced by a family friend who had been in my life since middle school because I ran cross country and track with two of her sons. And so she knew that I was a go-getter, that I had big goals, that wellness was important to me. And so I'm so grateful that she reached out to me and we got coffee and chatted about all things wellness. And she shared all these incredible products that would help me better fuel myself and fill in nutrient gaps that would be important for marathon training. And so the first things that I used when I first got started was the multivitamin, which is actually the first multivitamin that was introduced in the United States, was invented by Dr. Shackley. And it's gone through some iterations, some changes, but it's one of the highest quality multivitamins on the market. It's actually the most clinically proven product on the market. So, and it also included iron, which as a female runner, I have battled with low iron in the past, and that would take me out of races a couple times, or just really didn't do my best in those races because my iron was low. And I was probably using a vitamin that maybe said it had iron, but it wasn't absorbing in my bloodstream and benefiting me in positive ways. And so I was grateful to get on an iron supplement or a multivitamin with iron that was proven to work, and that people had been using for like 60 years in some cases. So I was super excited about that. I also took a B complex vitamin, and vitamin B is super helpful for women that live a higher stress lifestyle or that are like more prone to stress. And that is definitely me. So I knew that that would be very beneficial for me to take B vitamins. I also began with the sports nutrition products because I wanted a way to recover my muscles and be able to get through the long training of training for a marathon. And so that's where I began. And now I use personal vitamins that are based on my own goals, my own needs. It's based on my lifestyle, my diet. Yeah, they're personalized to me, and it has been a game changer in my life. I also have protein shakes every day. Protein is so important for our bodies, and as a runner still, I need a lot of protein. And so I use many other products as well. The youth skincare line has benefited my complexion in the most positive ways. I went through quite the hormonal imbalances and hormonal acne problems during my recovery of my period, that, oh, I can't even begin to say how amazing the youth skincare line is. And I also use the cleaning products in my home. No toxic chemicals going on here. And now that I have cats, I am so grateful that they're not exposed to any toxic chemicals. And in the future, when I have a family and young kids, they will never have to know what the Mr. Ick sticker is because I'm not going to have any chemicals that they can't get their little hands on. Our products are safe and kids can even use them. And so, how amazing is that? Um, I will never use anything different. That's for sure. So, after my first marathon, I fully committed to my period recovery journey. I stopped running. I needed to get my cycle back. I think it was probably a month or two after my marathon that I finally got my first cycle after going off birth control in April. So it was a long process that I was committed to. I completely stopped running for the most part. I did a little bit of movement here and there, did a lot of walks, really committed to mentally changing my mindset about wellness and my personal growth and just my body image, my relationship with food. I fully committed to transforming who I was. And I know that our stories are always evolving. So I know that I'm still kind of in learning. I'm still in the middle of a story. Um, but I've come a very, very long ways in these 5 years. So fast forward this past June 1st, almost 2 months ago, I ran my second marathon. And I got to incorporate so many lessons that I had learned over the past few years since my first marathon. And I had an amazing experience. I was able to achieve a 40-minute PR in the marathon. I dropped 40 minutes off my time from my first marathon. Yes, I didn't have to walk for a 30-minute mile. And I was able to run literally the entire time. I was a few minutes off of what my ultimate goal was for qualifying for Boston, but it was still incredible, and I'm grateful for the journey that I went on this beginning of this year. So I signed up for the marathon the beginning of the year. It was one of my New Year's resolutions, and ran the Fargo Marathon on June 1st. Some of the things that I did that helped me achieve my 40-minute PR was joining a running community. And I did most of my long runs with people that were a similar pace as me. I had a strategy for fueling and practiced using goo gels throughout my entire training and helped prepare my gut for the race day. I also had a sodium and hydration strategy that I also practiced on pretty much every run that was more than 5 or 6 miles. I used salt tablets, chewable salt, and that helped me to be able to keep my sodium levels in the range where my legs would keep moving. And they did not, they started to cramp up a little bit during the marathon, let's be honest. But I never had to stop and walk. And it was because of the salt. I also loosely followed a training plan for marathon runners and consistently did speed work. I properly carb loaded before the race day. I ate so many bagels, so many graham crackers, just so much carbs. And I kind of cut back on the fiber and cut back on fruits and veggies so that I was primarily taking carbs for about 3 days before the marathon. I told so many people about my big goals. My family all knew, my running community knew, Instagram followers knew. There was so many people that knew that I wanted to achieve a Boston qualifying marathon time. And I also shared my progress publicly on my social media pages, so that held me more accountable as well. And although I did not qualify for Boston, I was a couple minutes off technically, but if you know, you have to you have to get even faster than the qualifying time to actually probably get into the race. So my 3 hour and 31-minute marathon was a huge accomplishment, and I am not I don't regret anything. But kind of wish I would have been 2 minutes faster. But we have a redemption race coming soon. So our story is literally always evolving. We're always creating new chapters. Each day is a new opportunity to improve ourselves. And I am super excited because I am running my third marathon in October again, going back to Twin Cities, where I'm hopeful to have a redemption from my first race. And the goal, again, same goal as the last couple times, is to qualify for Boston and run a 3 hour and 25-minute marathon or somewhere around there. So that's my journey. That's my wellness story. And just from these last 5 years, it's always changing. I'm always learning more things. But I hope that some of this resonates with you. If you would like to chat about wellness, I am a partner with Shackley and am very proud to partner with a company that has the highest quality standards for their products. Everything is tested and clinically proven before it comes out to market. There's never been a product recall. There's literally like no risk to trying the products, because if you order something and you don't see the results that they say that you should get, if you're not satisfied with any product, it is 100% guarantee, money back guarantee. You send back the empty bottle. Like you go through the whole 30, 60, 90-day worth of a supplement or a product, and if you didn't get a transformation or you don't feel any different, you can send it back and they will give you your money back. And in over, I think it's like 68 years the company has been around, in that time they still only have 1/3 of a percent, or less than 1/3 of a percent return rate. So that means that hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people have been positively impacted and seen a difference from Shackley's products. So I am on a mission to bring true wellness to more female runners, more people in my network, because we all deserve to feel our best, live our best, and to use products and be part of a community that is truly life-changing. So if you want to get in touch with me, please reach out. The information will be in the caption below on how you can get in contact with me and we can get started. So I hope you have an amazing day and that you feel inspired to get out there and move and to really just take control of your health. So be well, my friend.